are you?
Good.
Good. I'm so excited to have you on another episode of Conversations with Vintage Women.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. And today we're going to be talking a little bit more about the rule of life and how you found that helpful.
Yep.
And a little bit more ways, I guess, of how I found it helpful as well.
Yeah.
And having this conversation in anticipation for our Equip Night coming up on February 21st, where we'll be talking about how to create a rule of life.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear Dustin talk about it.
Me too. I think it's going to be great. So Kaitlin, can you tell me a little bit about how identifying the natural rhythms in your life and the patterns that you see day to day has impacted your ability to integrate a rule of life?
Yeah, so I'm a mom of 3, and so for the past 10 years, my rule of life has been, based on mothering, basically, 3 children. So my rule of life has been surrounded by parenting. My daily routines are about nap time and feeding. And now that they're older and we're homeschooling, a lot of my rule of life is based around that. So we are, our daily routines are homeschooling and reading, lots of reading and teaching them how to be good people. And how do I do that? So I feel like a rule of life, having something written down and concrete helps focus a lot of those little decisions that you have to make on a daily basis.
So taking like those abstract things that you want to accomplish and then like actually putting them into like practical measures and like easier steps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you? What have you found that?
Oh man. Well, I know that I shared this a little bit with Christina, but I will say it again because I think it's been one of the most powerful changes for us is, I'm a working mom outside of the home. And so on Mondays and Wednesdays, I'm out of our house from 8 to 5.
Yeah.
And so that makes it challenging because dinner still has to get on the table. And so if we want to save money and eat well, then I've got to put some extra thought into what are we going to eat on Mondays and Wednesdays? Is it going to be leftovers? Is it going to be a crock pot dinner? And prior to being a working mom, I never had to put that much thought into what we were going to eat, and so that has been super helpful. And I've found that having that on the agenda of like at least one night a week, usually on Sunday nights, I'm going to be meal planning for the week. And it just helps take away a lot of the stress of what are we going to eat tonight, right? And it saves us money too.
Absolutely.
And then when I come home and my daughter is pulling at my shirt or I'm trying to make dinner, then like I can actually spend time with her. Or if it's just a little bit left, like cooking rice to go with whatever's been in the crock pot, like she can pull up her stool beside me and she can help me cook the rice. You know? And so I'm still connecting with her, even though I'm still also trying to like prepare a meal for us. I think just learning to be flexible with the different rhythms that happen throughout different seasons of life. And we can talk more about that, but that, haven't always been a working mom since we've been friends. And so just, I think a willingness to be flexible has been very important. To feel like I am having a rule of life or even organizing and managing the chaos that I find myself in.
That's about the best you can do sometimes.
Yes. Because I don't know, you can't really eliminate much of what's actually happening and what you're parts of and that sort of thing. But to be able to manage it and not feel like it is managing you.
Yeah. I do think, being a parent, you give up a lot of control of your life, to a certain extent. And so that's what we're doing. We're managing chaos.
Yeah, like another thing for me is like, I know that if I want to operate well as a nice human the next day, I need personally about 7 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And so I prioritize that. And so like if it's 10 o'clock, I'm like winding down and like getting ready to go to bed because, and that's just part of one of my rules, right? Is nightly, I know that I'm just not going to be my best self the next day for anybody.
Right.
And, you know, it's not good for my work. It's not good for my kid. It's not good for my husband or my friends. Right. And so like, if there's anything that I want to get done, there's a cutoff date. And I have recently begun to like lock my phone at certain times, and it'll tell me like, hey, your bedtime is coming up. And I'm like, who, you know, when I was a kid, I'd be like, I'm an adult one day and I don't have to have a bedtime. No, I really want a bedtime.
No, now I want a bedtime and a nap time.
Yes, yes. But it warns me like, you've got this much more time left on your screen. And then like, your screens, like all my apps on my social media apps go down. Yeah. And it's something that I've just started and it's been so helpful.
Yeah.
I wasted a lot of time.
Yeah.
Doing those things.
I'm still wasting a lot of time on those things.
You can ignore your time limits. I've learned to do that, but it is helpful.
It is, yeah. That sounds, it's a good boundary to have for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Tell me a little bit more, maybe some other rhythms that you have found to be helpful that have an impact on you personally.
One of the biggest ones I've noticed about myself, just within the past couple years actually, is some weeks I have a ton of energy and some weeks I have zero energy. And so some, you know, that daily, like, daily routines of doing the same thing every day, it doesn't work well with me or my personality or my hormones. So, you know, some days I can do all the things and I can clean my entire house and it looks immaculate. And then some days, all we do for school is read a book and play outside and I cook dinner, and that's all I do all day.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's all my body can handle. And I've had to, you know, really practice a lot of grace with myself in that area because, you know, if I sit there and like beat myself up about not being able to accomplish something today, you know, that it will still be there in 3 days whenever I feel better, and can accomplish it in like half the time I could right now. Then that doesn't do anybody any good, right? If you know, again, like if we are not good at what we're doing, if we are not good inside, then we're not doing anybody any good. And there's a lot of people that rely on us.
Yes. Yeah. No, and something that you said made me think like we have to have grace on ourselves, and like the expectation cannot be what we see in other women. It can't be what society tells us or culture tells us is the expectation. It really has to be this realistic expectation of like what we know we can accomplish for the day. And you're right, like I have found recently, like listening to what my body is trying to tell me is one of the best decisions I can make for myself, which then has an impact on the overflow of what I give to other people. Right. And I know one of the things for you, like one of your weekly rhythms is working out.
Yeah. And that's, you know, after I had my last baby, my husband was very sweet and encouraged me to go work out weekly, and he scheduled it for me and was like, you're going to go do this. And I was like, I don't want to do this. But I did it anyway, and it has completely changed my life. Like, I feel so much better. My body feels better. I feel so much better mentally. I feel like I really need that, you know, physical release. I love learning new things, and working out is never something I've done in my entire life. So it's been really fun to like learn a new skill and be like, yeah, I can lift this really heavy.
You're really strong.
It's very empowering. I highly recommend every woman do powerlifting. It's great. But also if I skip a week and I don't work out that week, then I'm not conscious of the water I'm drinking and the food that I'm eating. And so that, like, knowing that I'm working out is a good way for me to hold myself accountable. Like, if you don't drink water the day before, then you're going to feel really terrible going into that workout. So I'm really careful about the things that I eat and do around my workouts. And then without that accountability, I feel terrible because I don't take care of myself like I know that I'm supposed to.
Yeah. And you found that, like, that physical working out has had a really powerful impact on you, even mentally and emotionally, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's really helped my anxiety. You know, endorphins make you happy.
Yes.
So, you know, I really feel like that has been, it's been life-changing for my mental health.
That's good. And it's interesting that you talk about, like, pre your third baby, that wasn't a normal part of your life.
No.
And now, like, knowing you, like, it really seems like that's such an integral part of your life that, like, you couldn't go without that. Like, and you've even shared with me at the beginning of the pandemic when we couldn't go anywhere, you know, you were like, I really miss working out, and I could feel the toll that it's taking, not getting to go. Yeah.
It made me so sad. I was so sad. Like, not like mentally I was sad, and then my body was sad.
Yeah.
Because after having 3 babies, my body was destroyed. Like, my hips hurt, my knees hurt, my joints hurt, my muscles hurt, you know. So it's really, you know, it's really changed my life a lot.
Well, that makes me think about different seasons of life and phases of life.
Yeah.
And how, whether we like it or not, different seasons require different things from us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we do ourselves and the people in our sphere of influence a favor if we are willing to, like, flow with the season.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And you and I have known each other for 10 years now.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem real.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah. And, you know, you've always been a mom as long as I've known you.
Yeah.
I have not.
Yeah.
And so, you know, one of the things that I think about a lot is I moved to New Orleans and became a part of Vintage Church, very, very much a single person. And my life looked very different then than it does now. And certainly, you know, my quiet time looked very different from that. Yeah. You know, quiet time was very much the beautiful, picturesque cup of coffee with the word. I mean, y'all made fun of me for doing that. It's because we were jealous. Yeah. But I mean, it was so easy just to sit in bed and have my coffee and, like, pray and journal and read the word. And, I mean, I loved it, right? And I miss that. Like, I don't really get that anymore. And like I told you earlier, I will try that with Nora. And it's like, you can have reading time and mommy can have reading time. And you're going to sit in this chair. Mommy's going to sit in this chair. And that works for 2 minutes, maybe. And I'm just scared she's going to rip my pages of my Bible and want to draw with a pen in my journal. And so now connecting with God looks very different. And honestly, it's a lot of times when I'm in the car driving to work, or it's when I'm alone or getting ready and I'm praying and I'm thinking about family and friends who need intercession. I'm, you know, it just looks very different. And I don't necessarily feel any farther away from God. In fact, I do very much feel close to him, but spending time with him and in his word just looks very different. And I think it would be easy to buy into the lie or the feeling of guilt that I'm not doing it the right way, when there is not necessarily a right way according to anything that I read in the Bible. But I think it's just, we have to be willing to ebb and flow with our rhythms of life.
Yeah, that's so hard. It's so hard not to look at somebody else and be like, that's how I'm supposed to be doing it.
Yeah.
That's how my spiritual walk is supposed to look. That's how my house is supposed to look, or my kids, or anything else.
So true. We have our Instagram lives, and then we have our real life.
Yep, it's very different.
It's so different.
And I have to remember that about other people, right? Like, they have their Instagram life, and they're not putting up anything that they wouldn't want everybody to see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Either. So
no,
nobody's life is as perfect as Instagram.
No.
And that's okay.
Yeah. No, that's so true. Yeah. So, you know, this idea of, well, for you, what does connecting to God and like your spiritual life look like now as a stay-at-home homeschooling mom of 3?
Yeah. You know, so definitely like 5 years ago, that's exactly what my walk with Jesus looked like. It was stealing time during bedtime to read my Bible and to pray, and to the few times that I got to ride in the car by myself, you know, getting to pray. But now I've actually really enjoyed this season of my children being much older, and getting to have like real deep conversations with my 10-year-old and even my 6-year-old about my spiritual walk and what I think about God and what does he think about God. And I think that's been really rich, I guess, for me. Yeah. To grow together with my family and like spiritually. Yeah. It's been really good lately.
I mean, when you were saying like it sounds rich, like I was thinking like very fulfilling. Like that's like what a Christian mom wants for her kids, right? This opportunity and the freedom to teach them and to like shepherd them in a way. Like, it's discipleship.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Yeah. And I've really loved, I guess I said that, but I really, really love having conversations with my 10-year-old about what he thinks about things. Yeah. 'Cause like I can challenge him and he can challenge me even. You know, that's good. I really love it.
That's awesome.
I like this season much better than I did the baby season.
That's so funny because I know how much you loved the baby season. I mean,
I struggled. I liked things about the baby season. Yeah. I did not really enjoy that season of life.
It's hard.
It's very hard. It's very hard. Anxiety makes it hard too.
Yes. Well, speaking of anxiety, like, let's just talk about what anxiety has been like in the pandemic.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
I mean, I never would have viewed myself as a person. I don't think I ever would have said I was a person who struggled with anxiety. But I know that over the past year, I have certainly felt it. Like if I choose to pay attention to my body, it is just rampant at times. And that can be overwhelming.
Yeah. Yes, it can be. Yeah, that's something, you know, anxiety has been something that I've struggled with probably my whole life. But it's like different now. Probably because we're also very isolated. As we should be, staying safe. But it takes such a toll on your mental health to be alone, to like feel like you're alone, but everybody's alone together. And then things that I didn't think would like bother me, like coming back with other people, like getting back together with people. Like I liked how someone described it. It's like flexing a muscle that you haven't flexed in a long time. So like it's there, but I don't have that skill, as it's not as strong as it was. So like my anxiety coping skills are weak these days. And so like people, like talking to people is really hard, and it's hard to get past the anxiety. It's hard to get past like one of my biggest coping skills was to read people's lips.
You can't do that
anymore. Can't do that. So this has been such a hard year.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you know, I feel like some of those things that we have for our rule of life, or like our goals, some of them just went out the window this year. Which is fine. We can always do them later.
That's right. That's right. And I know, you know, we've all had to get really creative with forms of play.
Yeah.
Right? And I think, you know, for you, it sounds like, and you can elaborate on this, but like one of your forms of play is also one of the ways that you stay connected to community.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So we've taken up this hobby of playing board games, which is a much bigger hobby than I ever thought it would be. But I've really enjoyed it. It's such a really interesting way to, we can even like play online with people, and, you know, we've connected into this community that we never would have been a part of. Like I never even knew that existed. I didn't even think I was that nerdy. Apparently we are, but we've really, really enjoyed it. And I feel like board games are, you know, I use them in homeschooling, and I feel like it's a really good way to like flex your, you know, brain, like build your brain. You learn so many things as you learn a game. Yeah. It sounds silly, but we've really enjoyed it.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
What about you? How has your year looked? These past couple of years have been hard.
These past couple of years have been very hard. Yeah, like, you know, we were talking about hobbies earlier. I was like, what are my hobbies? Do I even have any? So yeah, I mean, going back to like 2018, you know, Nora was supposed to be born in April and she was born in February, where, you know, in 2 weeks she'll be 2. So, like that was a huge shock. Like I knew I was about to become a mom, but like, that's such a weird transition. Like when you become a mom overnight and you're like, I have this tiny human I have to take care of now, and like my body's doing weird things that it wasn't doing before, and like what is happening? Like you just tell yourself, this is how God made it. This is how God made it.
Most of these feelings are just hormones. It'll be okay.
Yeah. And so you know, beginning of 2019, having Nora and just a baby in the NICU was a lot. And so, you know, then bringing her home and learning that whole rhythm of everything revolves around the baby now. Like nobody, your needs aren't really as important anymore. Like you're just trying to eat and sleep and shower every now and then. But yeah, I mean, life was just turned upside down because of a baby, which is normal. And then, you know, midway through the year, my dad started to have health issues. And then the fall, you know, we found the brain tumor and he entered the hospital and he never left. And so I just remember like all of 2019, I described it as like, I felt robbed. I felt robbed of, the joy of the birth that I had visioned with my child, you know, getting skin on skin contact. I didn't get that, you know, and like having my dad at Nora's first birthday. I didn't get that. And so 2019 just felt awful. Right. And a lot of 2019, I kind of lost a sense of who I was because I was gaining these other parts of myself. I was now a mother. What does that mean? And now I no longer have my dad. What does that mean? And then you enter 2020. It didn't get much better. And so you know, then 2020, we're isolated, right? Like nothing is normal. Like, things that were normal outlets of fun for me, I can no longer do. And so one of the things that was most helpful for me, is, I guess you could call it a hobby. I did it every week, was go to counseling.
There you go. Everybody needs that hobby.
That's right. It's an expensive hobby. But worth it. You know, it's funny because I'm a counselor, right? But I resisted going to counseling for so long. And I was like, no, I know what I should do. I have all the skills. But my husband would tell you it was very good for me to go to counseling because I was kind of mean. And it's just, when I'm not doing well emotionally, I just get angry. And then it's easy to take that anger out on somebody I know who's not going to leave me.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, by God's grace, I found a wonderful counselor, and I didn't even know that I needed this, but it was every time I went with her, I was able to mourn. I was able to mourn all the things I had lost, right, over the past 2 years.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that I really needed that. And so, you know, I think when we think of hobbies, we often think about things that we really enjoy doing. Yeah. I hate crying. I've kind of learned to enjoy it now because I feel so much better afterwards. Yeah. And I realized that outside of counseling, I did not have a space to allow myself to just not think about anything except the grief, or if that makes sense. So like, just because I lost my dad, the world did not stop spinning. The bill still had to get paid. Right. I was still a mom. I was still a wife. I was still a friend. I was still a women's coordinator. You know, like, and thankfully, so many people in my life were extremely gracious and supportive and just there for me. Like, praise God for community. Yeah. But I also think like all of those responsibilities also kept me from getting in like a really deep pit of depression as well. Yeah. So again, you know, we talk about hobbies as if it's these fun things that we do, but I also think that there are hobbies that we need to implement that are not so fun, but have a significant positive impact on us, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think of like self-care. Yes. Right? Like some self-care doesn't always look like bubble baths. Right. Sometimes self-care is counseling. Sometimes self-care is working out. Sometimes self-care is like
that's good.
Taking a break for 5 minutes while your children watch TV.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm going to feel better after taking a break and then coming back than I am like... They can just watch screens. It's fine.
Yeah.
They're not going to die.
Absolutely. No, it's so true. It's so true. And I think we just talked about this the other day. Like, what's more beneficial for me and my kid to be yelling at each other? Yeah. Because we're both irritated and frustrated with each other? Right. Or is it better for both of us in the room to just turn on a TV and let you watch a show? You calm down, I calm down. Right. And we're doing better.
Absolutely.
Right?
If the screen is replacing screaming, then it is beneficial. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and that is, so, you know, again, play looks very different now. Yeah. I have been watching all the Marvel movies in timeline order, and that has been such a fun treat for myself at night. And, you know, obviously my bedtime is like 10:30, and so I don't watch them every night, but I make it a thing. Like, I give myself a treat, or like popcorn or Coca-Cola or whatever. And Josh doesn't have to watch them with me. I watch them by myself. So, you know, it's just... It's such an interesting time that we're in, and I think, you know, I should know all the brain chemicals that occur when you play and you do things that are fun. Yeah. But one of my friends who's much smarter than me with a PhD, like, she wrote about it at the beginning of the pandemic of how, you know, obviously, like, when we feel trapped, like, that doesn't do any good for our mental health. Yeah. But then when you also have to remove outlets of fun and outlets of play and recreation, that also does a number on us mentally. And so I think, like, we're trying to find outlets of fun that are still safe. Yeah. And I mean, that's better than nothing.
Absolutely.
And it's been good for me.
Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as we're wrapping up, how difficult or easy has it been for you to create this, like, rule of life?
So I'm filling out this chart, right, and I'm sitting with, you know, the blanks, and I'm an Enneagram 5, and so I am not a very future-minded person naturally, So those like daily, weekly, even monthly things were really easy to fill out. Those yearly things and those ultimate goals, they were not very easy to fill out.
Yeah.
But you know, I thought about it and prayed about it and worked on it and talked to Chris and kind of filled it out. I think there's still some blanks.
Oh yeah.
But
I think there's always,
okay.
there's always like room for like tweaking and adding or removing.
Yeah.
But I think the idea of it was a little overwhelming at first for me.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'm like you, like it was really easy to plug in like the daily and maybe weekly things.
Yeah.
But it definitely took a little bit more thought and intentionality and maybe like reality thinking, because sometimes I can dream, but like, I need the practical side too, just to kick in of just, well, what do I want? And like one of my yearly things is like, go to the doctor. I mean, like super practical, like just go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Cause that's something that like, again, that's a form of self-care.
Yeah.
And it's something that easily forget when you're putting so many other people's needs ahead of your own.
Right.
Right. One of my monthly things is like, make sure all the bills get paid. I mean, super, super practical, but also very needed.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I hope that, if nothing else, people can take away from this that while a rule of life may sound overwhelming and it may be a little scary to sit down and like write it out, it's really not. And you could really pace yourself, and and it's really helpful. Yeah. Like I think about those times where when maybe, you know, it's a really hard week and we're feeling really overwhelmed, like we could always revert back to that and be like, okay, what was the goal for today? Right. And like, is that manageable? And if not, am I okay with that? Right. Right? Can we save it for tomorrow?
Yeah. You know? It's not gonna, those dishes are gonna be there.
Yep.
It's fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing. This was a really fun conversation. And I hope that this is encouraging to you guys. And, you know, as always, if you have questions, if you have suggestions, we'd love to chat.
Absolutely.
And so get in touch with us. And